Back in the day, there wasn't always the most variety in turn-based combat. Like the original Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest had different presentations, but the system was more or less the same. As the years went on though, developers started experimenting more and more with this base foundation. Nowadays, we've seen all types of unique iterations. In this video, we're going to highlight 8 examples that really differentiate themselves due to their originality. Given the topic of the video, I'm mainly going to be focusing on the combat here, but I will give my brief thoughts on the overall games as well. Needless to say, there's a lot of games that could be fitting here, so maybe we'll do a part 2 if the interest is there. Alright, with all that said, let's just get into it. Here's an unranked list of 8 great JRPGs with unique battle systems.
The light is your guide.
A dream is what keeps you going.
Now is the time to shape your story. Your fate is in your hands.
To start this list off, we have Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles was developed by Sega and initially came out for the PS3, however, it's been ported to every platform since. This is actually the first entry in a 4-game series. The first one here is my personal favorite though. If you're interested in this series, I'd recommend starting here with the remastered version. Alright, let's talk about the actual game now. Valkyria Chronicles takes place in a fictionalized version of Europe during the events of World War II. Combat sees you taking control of a battalion comprised of different soldier types that all perform varying functions. It plays out like a combination of turn-based and real-time in what the game calls the Blitz system, which stands for Battle of Live Tactical Zones. Essentially, you move your various units across the battlefield based on the amount of AP you have per turn. The environment and terrain play a big factor, so strategizing where to send out your different unit types based on their strengths and weaknesses is a lot of fun. There's also sort of a rock-paper-scissors element to combat, kind of similar to something like Fire Emblem. When you actually want to target an enemy, the game then freezes and plays out like a third-person shooter, allowing you to take aim. It's an incredibly cool and unique system that to this day I've never really seen replicated before. I'm only just touching the surface as well. There's a lot more going on here that would take too long to explain. But yeah, you get the idea. Combine this deep, tactical gameplay with an engaging, emotional story and an extremely pretty watercolor aesthetic, and you have quite the gem here. There's a reason why it spawned a series, after all.
Enemy unit spotted! Now!
The next game we have on our list is Hybrid Heaven. Hybrid Heaven was developed by Konami and was released for the N64. This is hands down one of the most distinctive titles on the system. You're really not going to find another game quite like this one. Kinda ironic considering it was initially supposed to take inspiration from Metal Gear Solid until they decided to just do their own thing with it. While the game still has some third-person exploration and shooting involved, it's more reserved for puzzle solving rather than combat. Instead, combat plays out like a turn-based wrestling match. You position yourself in real time, but when it comes to actually executing a move, you then choose from a list of commands. Your options may seem limited initially, however, throughout the game you learn new moves from defeating enemies and copying their techniques. It's pretty cool. What's also cool is the more you use a certain body part, the stronger that body part becomes. Yeah, pretty similar to real life. If you want to spec in a quad god build and refuse to throw any punches like a boxer in protest, you can. Now, I wouldn't really say that's recommended as a balanced build is best in order to make full use of your moves, but yeah, it's a cool concept at least. There's also both stamina and power meters that you have to manage during combat, which really add to the wrestling feel of the game. And then of course there's the customizable combo system, which is where the fighting game influence comes into play. Overall, it's just a very interesting and unique system. It's not even the weirdest part about this game either. The story has you exploring underground facilities beneath New York City as you battle mutant hybrids created by an alien species that aim to clone world leaders in order to take over the planet. Oh, and your personal motive for doing this is so you can make it back in time to meet your girlfriend under the Christmas tree on the White House lawn.
Johnny, you haven't forgotten our pact, have you? That we'll meet again this year under the Christmas tree in D.C. on Christmas Eve? I don't care how late you show up. Just meet me there, okay? I'll be waiting.
Now, this may sound confusing. It absolutely is, but you can't say it's not unique. Hybrid Heaven may not be this underrated masterpiece, but I would say it's a flawed hidden gem with respectable ambition and creativity. Coming up next, we have Valkyrie Profile 2. Valkyrie Profile 2 came out for the PS2 and was developed by Tri-Ace. I did hint talking about this one in our video on dark and atmospheric RPGs a few months ago, so here we are. Also feel like I owe you guys this, as I know some of you were disappointed that I didn't talk about any Tri-Ace games in our hour-and-a-half video on Square Enix in the 2000s. But anyway, let's talk combat. Battles in this game play out like an interesting hybrid of real-time and semi-turn-based mechanics. Whereas exploration takes place on a 2D plane and is focused on platforming, combat on the other hand moves to a 3D environment. Enemies only move when you move, which lets you strategically plan how you approach them. Tactical positioning plays a big role as you can split up your party in numerous ways to gain advantages, like attacking from both sides or flanking from the back, for example. Every action uses AP, so managing this resource is essential as to minimize the times you're found in disadvantageous positions, as well as sustaining longer combos. Upon engaging the enemy, battles play out similarly to the first game, where your party members are mapped to the 4 face buttons, and you try to chain their attacks together with the right timing to perform these combos. Overall, it's a pretty complex system that combines elements of timing, spatial awareness, and resource management, allowing for deeper levels of strategy than most other turn-based games. If I'm being honest though, I don't think the story is quite as good here compared to the first Valkyrie Profile, and that may be why people don't seem to talk about it as much. However, as fun as the gameplay is in the original, I do think the sequel surpasses it in this aspect. If you're looking for some of the most depth we've ever seen in a turn-based system, then this one is absolutely worth looking into.
Think you can dodge this? Think you can dodge this?
Now is the time. Finishing strike! Viva la Valesti! Is it really defeated?
This is no place for amateurs.
The next game we have on our list is Legend of Legaia. Legend of Legaia came out for the PS1 and was developed by the company Procyon. If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, then my history with this absolute gem should be very known. First serious RPG I ever played, helped me fall in love with the genre, yada yada. I mean, it's in our channel opening after all, so yeah. I think Legend of Legaia has a lot of standout qualities. The story regarding freeing the world of Mist by reviving Genesis trees is really cool. The atmosphere is moody and distinct, and the often melancholic music fits the vibe perfectly. However, its most unique and perhaps strongest aspect is, well, what do you think? It's a video about battle systems, so yeah. Whereas Hybrid Heaven plays like a turn-based wrestling game, Legaia on the other hand plays more like a turn-based fighting game. Basically, you chain high and low punches and kicks together to create combos, or as the game calls them, arts. At the beginning of the game, the arts you can pull off aren't too complex, and you can likely only do one per turn as the action bar at the bottom isn't very big. By the end of the game, however, the action bar grows substantially to the point to where you'll even be able to combine multiple arts per turn. Sometimes this can even activate a new special art at the end called a super art. Even beyond super arts, there's also hyper arts, which are pretty much like stronger elemental versions. In addition to all of this, the way the magic system works is that you absorb certain enemies that then teach you various spells. It's pretty unique as well. Not to mention the magic itself is actually cast by these sentient beings attached to your arms called Ra-Seru. These visibly grow in size throughout the game, which is actually reflected in battle. Equipping a new weapon or piece of armor gets reflected in battle as well, which I always thought was a really cool touch. A lot of JRPGs don't even do this now, let alone back then. But yeah, as you can see, compared to other RPGs around the time, Legend of Legaia was doing some pretty unique stuff with its combat. Combine that with all the other stuff I mentioned earlier, and you have an outstanding title overall. Truly, one of the most overlooked from its era. To start off the second half of this list, we have Saga: Emerald Beyond. Emerald Beyond was developed by Square Enix and has been released for the Switch, the PS4 and PS5, iOS and Android, and Steam. Man, for being one of Square's longest running series spanning over 3 decades at this point, it's pretty crazy that no one cares about these recent releases, it seems.
And I'd appreciate it if you don't forget it, okay?
I mean, not even 300 reviews on Steam? Even indie RPGs that came out at the same time, like Eiyuden Chronicle for example, have way more reviews. No one cared about the previous Saga game either, as it has even less. Talk about a fall from Scarlet Grace. I'll see myself out.
Well, about time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail.
Well, I guess I should probably talk about the actual game and its combat, yeah? Emerald Beyond is largely centered around turn order manipulation, and there's a lot of ways to go about this. Actions such as regular attacks, casting spells, and special interrupt abilities triggered by specific conditions can either delay or accelerate your position on the timeline. The same goes for the enemies. There's not only weapon types to consider which influence factors such as positioning and the techniques you learn, but also character types between various races that play into your growth and combat capabilities as well. The main 5 races being humans, monsters, vampires, mechs, and kugutsu, which are essentially like sentient puppets. Unlike its predecessor, Emerald Beyond introduces a second timeline into battle to further manipulate, adding even more strategy. You're gonna want to do this in order to chain consecutive actions together to trigger what the game calls united attacks, which are key to winning battles. In classic Saga fashion though, these mechanics aren't explained too well, however the system itself is incredibly deep. Then of course there's other Saga staples as well, like a reliance on RNG for stat gains and learning techniques, multiple protagonists and scenarios to play, and yeah, it's certainly a Saga game. The story is, not that great. The world design is pretty cool I think, but yeah, don't expect much from the plot. If you want to experience one of the most layered and strategic turn-based systems in the entire genre though, then Emerald Beyond is well worth checking out.
Hardly fit for training.
The next game we have on our list is Sema the Enemy. Sema the Enemy was released for the Game Boy Advance and was developed by Neverland, the same team behind the Lufia series and the Rune Factory series. Just the fact that they gave us Lufia 2 means anything they worked on deserves to be looked at with great interest. I'd actually say for games that got official US releases, this is easily one of the most obscure games we've ever covered on the channel. I don't know if I've ever seen this one get brought up in online discourse. It's an action RPG with a heavy focus on puzzle solving as you guide and protect various NPCs throughout dungeons. In other words, the game is essentially a giant escort mission, or a series of them I guess. Now before you skip ahead to the next game, let me explain why this doesn't suck as much as you might think. Now, combat itself isn't anything too crazy. There's a basic attack, charge attack, special attacks, and items you can use to engage with enemies. You also have a party member that follows you around and auto-attacks enemies for you. The tutorial dungeon has 14 NPCs split up into different groups that you must guide out. However, this dungeon isn't representative of the others. The main 14 dungeons have you rescuing one of these NPCs per dungeon, and each NPC has different abilities you'll have to utilize to make your way out. Some of them have skills centered around battle, and others are more centered around puzzle solving and exploration. You also have to strategically keep them out of harm's way by manually moving them around. And you're going to want to do this, as there's an affinity meter for each character that's influenced by factors like this, among others. By keeping their affinity high enough, they'll then craft unique items and equipment for you from materials you find in dungeons. So yeah, there's kind of a lot going on here actually. The story has you battling against an alien species called the Sema. One could even say they're the enemy. They feed on human hope, hence why they trap people in labyrinths with hopes they'll be able to make it out. Yeah, 2 games about shape-shifting aliens in this video. What are the odds? The story's actually not bad, and the portraits for each character add a lot of personality to the dialogue. Overall, Sema the Enemy may not be for everyone, but it's certainly unique and has a lot of really interesting things going for it. Coming up next, we have Nights in the Nightmare. Nights in the Nightmare was developed by Sting Entertainment and was initially released for the DS. However, it would later get ported to the PSP with additional content. That's the version I'll be talking about today. I guess it's worth mentioning that there also is a remaster for the Switch, however, that version never left Japan, so yeah, sucks. Anyway, Nights in the Nightmare is a tactical RPG with real-time strategy and bullet hell shooter elements. Yeah, it's quite the combo. The game has a really steep learning curve, so it's going to be difficult to thoroughly explain it here, but I'll do my best to summarize it. Basically, you control this wisp that you freely move around the battlefield and possess different knights to perform attacks of varying shapes and ranges based on their class and weapon type, and you do this all while dodging enemy projectiles in real time. There's a bunch of other stuff to consider as well, like weapon durability, resource management, a law and chaos alignment system, sacrificing knights to upgrade others, a time limit that only gets lowered when you charge attacks and get hit by enemies, and yeah, needless to say, there's a lot going on here. Arguably too much to where it can be pretty disorienting initially. The energetic, invigorating music really adds to this frenetic feeling. But yeah, this is by far the most convoluted and complex system in this video, so I'd be here all day if I try to explain it all. Nights in the Nightmare is incredibly difficult and is the polar opposite of a pick-up-and-play game. However, to the patient gamer that doesn't mind devoting the time to learning all of its systems, there's a super deep and rewarding experience to be found here.
The enemy's hurt.
Item copied. Build up.
What's the axe?
Break out.
Read.
And to finish off this list, we have Dragon Force. Dragon Force was co-developed by J-Force and Sega and came out for the Saturn. Before we get into the combat, there's a pretty interesting story behind the development of this game. The company J-Force actually went bankrupt and dissolved before they could even complete it, leaving the rest to Sega to finish internally. Not only that, but the head of the company, Masahiro Akishino, who was also the previous director of the Wolf Team, which would later turn into the Namco Tales studio, has pretty much vanished with his current whereabouts still unknown to this day. Pretty eerie, right? Dude's probably just chilling on some tropical island somewhere with other famously vanished video game developer Shinichi Shimomura. Dude disappeared over 20 years ago after directing the Dark Matter trilogy in the Kirby series. Interesting stuff. Anyway, tangent aside, Dragon Force is like a fast-paced, real-time strategy RPG where you choose one of 8 monarchs to command a giant army of 100 into battle. Each of these 8 monarchs have their own storyline as well, giving the game quite a lot of replayability. The overworld aspect plays somewhat similar to games like Ogre Battle, where you send units out to the battlefield to either run into enemies or to visit towns and castles to find items or recruit generals. If you approach an enemy unit, you then choose one of your generals and their forces to engage in a 200-person battle. Having so many moving sprites on screen was just unheard of at the time, and really separated it from other games. You lead your army in battle by giving them various commands, and each general has their own special moves they can use as well. The type of troops you have and the positioning of them play huge factors, so there's a lot of stuff to consider. Even compared to other real-time strategy RPGs, the way Dragon Force blends all of its mechanics is just extremely unique. Whereas Ogre Battle's gameplay has been replicated in recent years with Unicorn Overlord, Dragon Force on the other hand has still yet to see any successors. Well, besides its official sequel, I guess. However, that one never got released outside of Japan. There is a fan translation online though, so maybe one day we'll talk about that one too. But yeah, with this super unique gameplay, engaging story, excellent cutscene artwork, high replay value, and awesome music, Dragon Force is the very definition of a hidden gem. Truly, a one-of-a-kind experience.
Push it in! Work your body, work your body.
聖剣伝説ファイナルファンタジーそしてゼノギアス予約受付中
デジキューブ。
Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching everyone, we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. What are some other RPGs with weird and unique battle systems you think would have been fitting for this video? There's a lot more out there I wanted to talk about, but we could only fit so many. If the interest is there, maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime, so just let us know in the comments below. As always, just want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Chris Carnaccio, Derek Drost, Jam, Jesse Spencer, J-Ho, Joe Bro the Hobo, J Shaw Drums, Jump Rock, and Spankwise. All of your generosity and support is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching everyone and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time.
You win!